I was very happy to hit on one of our 3 best prop bets last week that gave us some solid profit. We hit on Christian Rodriguez to win by decision at plus 470. Unfortunately, we come up short on Soriano by decision at plus 490 and Jose Johnson by decision at plus 185. Thus, our props now sit at 1 and 2 on the year for plus 2.7 units and a 90% ROI. A good start, especially after the tumultuous 2024 we had in terms of props. Our long shot ended up coming up short with Chris Curtis, round 3 knockout at plus 2,200. It ended up being Kopylov who gets the buzzer beater knockout on Curtis there. So shout out to anybody that was able to get that part of it in. But we do have to rip up our long shot ticket on Chris Curtis. So 0-1 on the year for long shots. Let's see if we can change it around this weekend. So like I said, this prop drop show or segment that I drop for you guys is, again, briefly going over every single matchup, quickly giving you the prop that I like most in every single fight, and then at the end of it, giving my top 3 best prop bets as well as my favorite long shot on the card as well. So let's get right into it. Let's try to keep this brief. First fight of the night, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. A very tough fight to call overall, but I believe it will be Ulanbekov who gets his hand raised, and I believe it comes by decision to get him at minus 110 rather than that minus 350 line that he's currently at. I think this is the better way to approach it. I think Carpenter has good enough defensive grappling to not get finished. He might make this more competitive than the money line makes it indicate, but I still believe the Dagestani fighter will come out on top with Ulanbekov, again, by decision at minus 110. Next up, Bernardo Sopaj going up against Ricky Turcios. This should be a fun, entertaining matchup considering how both of these guys compete, but I do have to lean on the Sopaj side as I do believe his more damage-based approach and being very smart in terms of going for takedowns when he needs to, but also staying very active with his combination striking approach. He'll be more effective in terms of landing better damage. Although Turcios might have a higher output, look for Sopaj to be the one landing the more eye-catching shots, which end up getting his hand raised on the scorecards here, which you can currently get at plus 115. Again, some people might want to parlay Sopaj just to get him no matter how he ends up winning, but Turcios is normally a very hard guy to put away. I don't think Sopaj will be able to submit him. I don't think he knocks him out either. So I think if he wins, it probably comes by decision, and you're getting slight plus money right there at plus 115. Next up, Rinya Nakamura against Muin Gafurov. I believe Nakamura will go out there and win this fight by decision, but if he wears down Gafurov enough, we've seen Gafurov slow down plenty later on in fights, and I do believe that leaves an opening for Nakamura to land some sort of knockout considering the amount of power we've seen from him in the past. Round 3 knockout for Nakamura currently sits at plus 1,700, which is not bad and definitely worth a sprinkle if you feel that type of reasoning here. I believe it's going to be his wrestling that ends up getting the job done, which is why my favorite prop will likely be the decision at minus 115. And if you're looking for a hedge spot on Muin Gafurov, I think the only way he ends up winning this matchup is by knockout, and you can get that line at plus 1,100, which is not a bad way to hedge if you find yourself a little bit overexposed on the Nakamura side. Next up, Carol Rosa going up against Eileen Perez. Perez, I do not think she'll be able to establish her grappling dominance as she's had over the last 3 or 4 fights. I think we'll see Rosa do a great job in terms of keeping this fight in the stand-up realm. And from there, I think she is this much superior striker. From chewing up the lead leg of Perez to putting combinations together and busting up Perez on the feet, I think that we'll see Rosa go on and win this fight on the scorecards, which currently comes in at minus 130. But a little bit of a flyer on her to win by knockout at plus 1,000 up to plus 1,200, depending on your bookie, is not a bad sprinkle either. I think she is far, far superior on the feet. I think Perez just looks way too uncomfortable on the feet, and I think that leaves many openings for Perez. Once she gets into her groove and really batters that lead leg of Perez, she can start having fun with Eileen, and if she really turns it up, she might be able to get a TKO stoppage. So, again, favorite one is decision, minus 130, but if you want to get risky with it, Rosa by knockout at plus 1,000, not a bad look. Next up, Azamat Bekoev going up against Zachary Reese. I believe Bekoev wins this fight on the scorecards at plus 230. Not a bad line to invest in there. His money line is not too bad at minus 190 either. But again, this is a prop shop. I'm going to go decision plus 230. A couple of other spots that kind of stand out to me. If Bekoev can wear down Reese enough, he should be able to open up some submission opportunities for himself, which he has more of those than knockouts on his record. I know he's believing in his hands a little bit more, but I think he wants to stay away from the big power that's going to be coming his way from Reese. Thus, we'll see him break him on the ground ground, and from there he might be able to open up submission opportunities. You can get Bekoev round 2 sub at plus 1900 or Bekoev sub round 3 at plus 2900. I'm going to lean with the former a little bit more there with round 2 sub, as I don't think Reese, if he really is going to be working off his back for the majority of this fight, I don't think he gets past that 10-minute mark surviving with that top pressure of Bekoev. On the flip side with Reese, round 1 knockout is probably the best way to go about it at plus 1100, especially with the amount of action that's been coming in on his money line, taking him from about plus 130 to down to about plus 160. I think his best win condition is that round 1 knockout. I don't see it happening, but it is a good hedge opportunity for anybody looking to exploit that. Plus 1100 as well, not a bad way to go about it. Next up, Grant Dawson going up against Diego Ferreira. Dawson, I believe, is in the best shape of his career, best form of his career, and I think that eventually leads to him getting a finish here over Ferreira. I believe a lot of it will be due to his wrestling and really turning up the pressure when he gets those dominant positions, just as we saw him do against Rafa Garcia. Ferreira will make it a little bit harder to establish that top position, which is why I think it will take a little bit of a beatdown and a bit of wearing for Ferreira to eventually fold, and I think from there we'll see Dawson start to posture up and land those big shots to get the finish. So Dawson inside the distance plus 170. That's kind of what I'm leaning here. And then again, getting a little bit more specific with it, Dawson round 2 knockout plus 1,000. Dawson round 3 knockout plus 1,500. I think a combination of either of those could end up getting the job done here. And then on the flip side, all of Dawson's 2 losses, or I shouldn't say all, there's only 2 losses, have come within 30 seconds of his fight starting. So Ferreira round 1 knockout plus 1,600 might be the best way to hedge this spot. But I think Dawson dominates him regardless and ends up getting that finish himself in the 2nd or 3rd round. Our next up, Bogdan Guskov against Billy Elekana. I really like the Elekana side, and it seems like the public is starting to pile on Guskov as we had Elekana go from plus 250 to about that plus 300, plus 325 line. My confidence is still strong on the Elekana side, and I think he ends up getting the finish here. I think we'll see Guskov get a little bit too overconfident and a little bit too comfortable in the striking realm, getting too reckless, allowing the more sniper-like striking of Elekana to snipe him down the middle, land some big shots, and either get a knockout or a club and sub opportunity. You can get Elekana inside the distance at plus 460, or we can try to be sneaky here and try to go with Elekana by submission at plus 1100. I know not a lot of his wins have come by submission, but he's been training out of a BJJ gym over the last couple of years now, and I believe he might look to exploit the defensive grappling issues that we've seen in Guskov's game over his first 2 UFC fights. And I think that could end up causing him some troubles here. So I'm going to go Elekana inside the distance as my favorite prop, but Elekana by sub is the sneaky approach for this matchup. All right, next up, we got Jailton Almeida going up against Sergey Spivac. I think Almeida gets this done relatively easily and relatively quickly, similar to what he was able to do against Alexander Romanov, who is about 30-plus pounds heavier than what he's facing here against Sergey Spivac. Look for Almeida to initiate the body lock, get the trip takedown, work to a dominant position, and I think he ends up getting a ground and pound knockout here. You can get Almeida round 1 at plus 170 if you can't choose between one of the 2 methods, but you could also hone in on Almeida round 1 knockout at plus 650, which is not a bad spot, especially for a near minus 500 favorite in Almeida. All right, next up, we got Peyton Talbott going up against Raoni Barcelos. I'm a huge Barcelos fan, but this is a horrible stylistic matchup for him. I think Talbott has good enough takedown defense to keep this fight standing. And then from there, he is the much faster and much more powerful striker. And I think that will open up plenty of opportunities for him to counter, land those big shots on Barcelos down the pipe, and eventually put him away. So you can get Talbott round 1 knockout at plus 280, which is a great number for a guy that's sitting around minus 1,000 on the money line, but also the under 1.5 at plus 120 in case this trickles a little bit into the 2nd round. But I think we'll see Talbot land big shots in that 1st round. And as long as Barcelos' chin does not just magically show up, I think he will suffer a big knockout loss here. So I'm going to go Talbot round 1 knockout plus 280. Kevin Holland going up against Renier de Ridder. I'm going de Ridder by sub plus 290. We know Holland has issues against guys that are grapple heavy. De Ridder's wrestling game might leave a little bit to be desired, but I believe his length and his just awkwardness is eventually going to lead to grappling opportunities for him here, whether it comes from pulling guard, initiating the clinch, or just finding a weird trip to try to get this to the ground. And then from there, with his long, lanky arms, he's very good in terms of clamping onto that front choke or even a rear naked choke or even that arm triangle. I believe it's going to come by some sort of choke submission, some sort of, again, probably a Darce choke, but I think that de Ridder finds that submission here against Holland, puts him away, puts him out, plus 290, sign me up. Big time fight here between Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, former light heavyweight champions that were both forced to vacate their belt due to significant injuries they both have received. Now they're going up against each other here. This should be a bit of a slugfest. I'd be surprised if either one of them ends up going for a takedown. I think both of them are going to be throwing big hands. I think Hill has a decent chance of finding a knockout of his own, but I'm going to go Prochazka here. I'm hoping his chin shows up. I'm hoping that he can really pressure and walk through the offense of Hill, land his big shots as well. And I think it's going to probably take him to about round 2 to break Hill and land those big shots to eventually get him out of there. Prochazka by knockout plus 200. Prochazka round 2 knockout plus 750. Those are the two spots that I'm kind of thinking about for this matchup, and I think it ends up coming through. Co-main event. Merab Dvalishvili looking to defend his bantamweight title against Umar Nurmagomedov. I do like Nurmagomedov quite a bit here. I think he ends up winning this fight on the scorecards at minus 105. Not a bad line. But if we want to get a little bit risky with it here, I'm trying to think of one or the other in terms of the type of finish you'll get. It'll probably be a knockout more than it'll be a submission. I think Merab leaves too many openings that Umar might be able to take advantage of here. We see Merab very recklessly crashing the pocket over and over again to get to his wrestling, to get to his takedown attempts. But I think that will eventually lead to him walking into either a knee, a straight shot down the pipe. But if Umar can time a perfect counter, he should have the power to knock Merab out here. At plus 850, you could get worse odds to take this type of gamble in this spot. But again, my most confident prop for this matchup would be the decision prop at minus 105. And then after that, I'd go Nurmi by KO at plus 850. All right, new main event, I should say, Islam Makhachev looking to defend his lightweight title against short notice replacement Renato Moicano. Although Moicano was scheduled to compete against Benil Dariush on this card, he is more than ready for this matchup, but that will not save him from a guy like Makhachev, who should be able to put him through the ringer and eventually find that submission. My favorite prop for this matchup is going to be the fight to not start round 3 at minus 130. If we want to get more specific than that, I think it's going to be Makhachev round 2 submission plus 700. It might not surprise me to see him get it done in the first round, but I think it's going to take a little bit of wearing down, and I think we'll see Moicano eventually break, give up a position, and that will allow Makhachev to sink in what I think is going to be an arm triangle choke to get the victory here. And still, lightweight champion Islam Makhachev. All right, let's get into the top 3 prop bets that I got, as well as my long shot that I'm going to be going with. So, first of which, Grant Dawson inside the distance, plus 170. Already talked about it. Peyton Talbott, round 1 knockout, plus 280. Islam Makhachev and Renato Moicano fight does not start round 3, minus 130. Those are my top 3 prop bets. The long shot that I'm going to go with here, a little bit risky, but let's go for it. Azamat Bekoev, round 2 submission plus 1,900. I hope that he can wear down Reese and eventually open up that submission opportunity. There you guys go. Top 3 best prop bets, long shot, and then the full card prop drop as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That should be a wrap for my UFC 311 content. Next week, there is no UFC event, but there are 3 other shows. There is KSW 102. There is Road to Dubai, PFL, and then there's LFA 200. I will have breakdowns, an MMA Lawcast episode for the PFL card, and then I'll have a Legacy Warriors podcast for LFA 200. Their bicentennial card, they have some pretty good fights on there. I believe 3 title fights as well. So don't fret, no UFC, but I'll still have you covered on the YouTube channel with breakdowns for those. And I'm going to try to think of some other fun things that I can add to the YouTube channel to kind of fill the void of the UFC not being there. But for sure, I'll have breakdowns on 2 of those 3 cards I'll see you guys then. Good luck on your action this weekend, folks. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment. Let me know what your favorite props are. Otherwise, good luck this weekend, and I'll see you guys again next week. Peace.